Bradshaw Boys, a podcast where three relatively grown men binge the iconic HBO series Sex and the City. So dust off those DVDs and grab yourself a white wine or even the Cosmopolitan and settle in. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to the Bradshaw Boys, three guys watching their way through Sex and the City for the first time ever, mostly. I'm Cory Cavin.
I'm Kevin James Doyle.
My name is Jon Sieber.
And man, we just tried to do that intro 3 or 4 times.
It was tough. It was a little difficult.
Maybe we'll put it in the outtakes.
It's tough because I feel like we're still working through the fact that we're like what you said. You had it, and then you're like, mostly. It's from the beginning.
But I said mostly because we've talked about this. We are 3 guys that are watching the show for the first time ever. But John and I have seen a few episodes before, and
We don't want to be liars.
yeah, we don't want to be liars. We want to be truthful. You know, one of the things that makes this show really good is that these women are truthful to each other in their relationships, and then they're not, and that also causes drama.
Well, no one's lied yet.
that we know of.
We just know that one guy that lies to girls and then videotapes them when he's having sex with them.
And Carrie is super into it. Is that episode 2 or 1? That's not pilot episode. That's
It's
episode
like
2.
3. They ease you in before they're like, here's some criminal activity that you're supposed to find sexy.
It was cool in the 90s.
We're recording 2 today, and so when I woke up this morning, I was like, I can't believe we get to watch 2 episodes today. It's the first time in history we'll ever have watched 2 episodes.
Has anyone cheated? Have either of you watched any episodes?
Oh,
outside?
I thought you
I
meant
was just like,
sexually,
shit.
like,
Have you
characters.
cheated on your relationships? Let's get right to. Has anyone
during
watched?
this podcast?
Have either of you watched any episodes
No,
outside?
absolutely
I haven't.
not.
I have not.
I watched an interview with Sarah Jessica Parker today on some, like, I sent it to you guys on Facebook, but it was basically Sarah Jessica Parker talking about when she filmed the pilot, she forgot about it because she was like, I was working on tons of stuff, and then this agent or industry person was like, I saw your pilot Sex and the City, and she had forgotten about it. And she's like, I know you won't believe it now, but I totally forgot. I didn't even remember it. And then it came around, and now it like defined her career. So that's where I got my fix this morning. I was like, yes. And then just seeing her do an interview, I was like, I don't know. I feel like we'll probably get her on here at some point. I feel like that's not true.
I'm hopeful.
I'm
very
hopeful. I'm hopeful for surprises like that. I think we could. I saw an interview with her not too long ago, and I actually the other night was walking in the West Village or somewhere in New York City. I don't remember where, but we walked by someone, and my girlfriend thought it was Charlotte, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, I thought that was Charlotte." She was like, I don't think it is, but it might be, but you should chase her down. And I was like, I don't have anything to say to her yet. I feel like it would be if you chased her, or if we went and saw Sarah Jessica Parker, be like, hey, we have this podcast.
She'd be like, cool.
It's not out yet.
Yeah.
you know?
Do you guys ever think you see someone famous and then you're like 60% sure, but you just go with it? And you tell your friends, dude,
Yeah,
I was in Shake Shack and I saw Brendan Fraser. It was insane.
Just round up. I saw him. Why not?
When I worked in Montana, when I lived in Montana after college, I was a snowboard instructor. And one day Brendan Fraser came to our mountain, and we were like the mountain that wasn't the cool snowboard mountain. Like we were near Big Sky. We weren't Big Sky. And people were like, Brendan Fraser, Encino Man is snowboarding today here. He was like the only famous person to come to the mountain the whole time I worked there, and it was a huge deal.
That's a big deal.
It was a big deal. It was
That's a
like
big
2000.
I don't think I've told you guys this, but I hung out with Matthew Broderick for a long time.
How does that relate to Brendan Fraser?
Well, Matthew Broderick is married to Sarah Jessica Parker.
That does relate in that way.
And I had a number of cocktails
Also,
with Matthew Broderick.
his nickname is the Encino Man.
It's
It's completely unrelated to anything. People just call him the Encino Man. I don't know why. So you had a lot of cocktails with him?
It was after How to Be a New Yorker opened, a show that I did, and we're going bowling after at the bowling alley in the Port Authority.
Bullmore?
No, the one in the Port.
One of the Port Authority.
It's
I think it's now. Is it Bowlmore now? They
think so.
swanked it up.
Yeah.
But it used to just be the Port Authority bowling alley.
and I think what's his name? Matthew Broderick. What's his name? He was there because it was like Broadway bowling night or whatever, and he was there watching the baseball game, and then me and my buddy Caleb and James all went up next to him to just watch the end of the Yankees game. Then my friend Caleb was like, I bet you $50. I bet $50 to whoever's here, like, that the Yankees are going to come back and win. And Matthew Broderick's like, I'll take that bet, because they were down like 5 in the bottom of the 8th or something. And then he ended up losing the bet. And then Matthew Broderick's like, I feel really bad, but I'm gonna have to take your money. That was a very bad bet. And then he went and then he went and got the $50, gave it to him, and he's like, yeah, I feel bad. I'm just gonna buy you guys some cocktails. And then he just bought us drinks back.
That's amazing.
That's great.
But no one ever acknowledged. We were cool about it, but it was a fun hang.
That's great. I said earlier in our intro when I said mostly, and we had the mostly controversy, which it will be known that forever on this podcast, the mostly controversy. Hashtag mostly controversy. Should I have said that after our intro? But you've never seen an episode, and what was your thing? John and I had watched 5, and we came up with that together, and then you'd never watched them,
but I gave Sex and the City walking tours, and so we needed to reach out to see if there are other people with that job.
That's true.
And so we did.
And we got a guest for today's podcast. We are really excited about our guest today. She is a comedian and author, and she used to give Sex and the City walking tours. Everybody welcome Selena Coppock.
Hello.
Hey.
Yay. I'm excited to be here. It was a Sex and the City bus tour, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah. In the interest of, full transparency, a 3-hour tour on a bus.
Oh
my goodness.
Yeah.
Those were the big leagues.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, I didn't even realize there was a walking tour. Was it just West Village? I think we've talked about this, but we've been drunk when we have, so apologies.
It's a pretty janky company that I don't think exists anymore.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was sort of like you would hire anyone and just show up, and it'd be, sometimes people that didn't even. Yeah, it was a one-stop shop. It was not like an organized thing.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I got away with giving them without having ever seen a show.
Yeah, I know, because on the Sex and the City bus tour, it is pretty strict. You also have to dress up. Like, you're supposed to, you have 55 people on a bus and
wild.
Multiple stops, and you got to wrangle people in and out of bars. And like,
Could you
it's like a hop on, hop off?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Could you walk us through like a tour?
Yeah, totally.
Like, walk us through what we would do without any spoilers for us, of course.
Yes, yeah.
Of
I'll
the
give you the
show.
Cliff Notes. So it starts in front of the Plaza Hotel, and that's where you sort of assemble your people, and then a few things happen at the Plaza over the course of the whole show. But I think in season 1, actually, maybe you guys are going to get to this soon, but Carrie and Big have an interaction there.
Okay.
And then in the movies, they film some scenes there. Then you go down Fifth Ave, and we sort of point out all the places where they go shopping, because you'd play a DVD of the show on the bus with clips.
Really?
Yeah, with clips as you're going by the
That
places.
could be the same DVD set that we have.
It might be.
that bus company could have recycled it and could have picked it up.
That's how we watched the show, was on
Yeah.
DVD.
Yeah. Oh, classic. That's the only way you could see the art form.
Are there
yeah.
people in front of the plaza hawking this tour? Are there people like dressed like Mr. Big?
No, because
Do you want to go on
Do you
this
want to go?
tour?
Abso-fucking-lutely. Come on.
Oh my
Come
God,
on.
you're
Come on,
great.
get in here.
Yes.
Get on the bus.
Well, it's more of usually people like order their tickets online or by phone, and then we're like, meet in front of the plaza. You'll see a woman with a blue umbrella, which like each staff member has a blue umbrella. But usually I would go up to people if they looked like very fashionable, like but Indiana's version of fashionable. I would just go over to them and be like, hey there, I think you're looking for me. And they'd be like, well, yeah, the Sex and the City tour. And I was like, I could tell, come with me, because people just look like they're, off. But sometimes they would dress up like a big flower and and
would
like
any of
bachelorette
them
parties.
try to mimic the outfits that they saw on the show?
Oh,
Were
yeah,
people, like,
totally.
Were we cosplaying on this bus?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, I mean, because some bachelorette parties they really would like have like either sashes or a lot of them did the big Carrie flower or the nameplate necklace. But
You're speaking languages that we don't. What's the nameplate necklace? Did they wear those in the show?
yes, at one point, I think it may be in upcoming seasons. Carrie has, and it's more like you used to see it more in like Latino and Black culture of like having your name as a gold plate. You know.
I went on a date with a girl one time who had that, but it just said nope.
Oh, I love it! I love it.
I
That's
was
so
like,
great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have one that says.
Are you sure that
Selena.
wasn't her last name?
Oh, it was Leslie Knope. from
Leslie
Parks and
Knope,
Recreation. I
exactly.
went on a date with the character of Leslie Knope. I was like,
Yes.
you look like Amy Poehler, sort of.
But yeah, I mean, on the
Is
show there was
blue
some-
umbrella a thing.
No,
That's
that
just
was
a tour
just
guide thing.
that was just a
Okay.
tour guide thing. Yeah,
What
but
was the other thing you said? The big flower? Is that a fashion thing?
I think I
Yes.
might know what that's from. Is that from the movie?
well, in the movie they bring it back
Okay.
to echo it. You see
Callback.
it in I think you see it in season 4 or 5. I mean, because Carrie's fashion was just so amazing. I mean, sometimes it was bonkers, but so amazing. And the woman who did all the fashion, Betsy Johnson, Betsy Johnson did some, but then it was this other woman. She often would take trends that were often from Black and Latino communities and sort of put them on the white women, which. Problematic.
Wow.
Yeah, but not always. But yeah, the big flower we see later on. It just was sort of Carrie's signature at one point of like just a huge flower. But yeah, so the tour then would go, we would go to the Pleasure Chest, which is a sex toy shop.
in the West Village.
Yeah,
right?
in the West Village. And then we would sort of wind around the West Village, go to Magnolia Bakery and get cupcakes. And they would have some shopping time. And then go down to Little Italy, Chinatown, to the bar that was Stephen Aiden's bar, which you'll get to in future seasons.
What is that?
Oh yeah, what bar did they use?
It's called O'Neill's.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's a cool bar.
Yeah,
I used to go there for every New Year's Eve. Me and all the tour guides would spend New Year's there. It was very funny.
That's funny.
When you took the ladies to Magnolia, were you like give them a wink and be like, get the banana pudding?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what the New Yorkers.
I know. Yeah, like that was the thing is there was so many like cupcake wars and cupcake drama between Magnolia and then Crumbs and like
Yes.
always like weird fighting. And so the cupcake situation often was changing. And at one point we severed ties with Magnolia and it was like we'd bring our own cupcakes and serve them in the park near Magnolia, but they weren't Magnolia cupcakes. And like
Where'd you get the cupcakes from?
I think they were from not Crumbs or like another one that was a split
I'm
off.
trying to think. There's like Little Bake Shop. There was.
Yeah, what was the other one? Oh, I forget what it was called. But
We'll look that up.
yeah,
I
and
will
then it was
call
like,
them out now. Magnolia, not good coffee. And whereas
Oh,
a lot of the
really?
other cupcake places, like what was the one you said? Little Bake Shop?
Little Bake Shop.
They have great coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
I never. I was never like this is like most people. I was never a giant Magnolia cupcake fan, and then occasionally I went through like a Magnolia icing phase. But I've always been for.
Can you explain that for us?
So I used to work at
just
this.
like freebasing that icing.
Oh my
But
gosh.
did you get one of those bags and cut the bottom off and just?
Yes, you would see me I'd be out in an alley behind Magnolia. I knew this guy Henry that worked there, and I would hang out in the alley, and I would have like trousers with piss stains on them, just hanging out there, and I'd be like, Henry, give me that icing, and then he would do it. It was 3 months. I was unemployed. That's all I did.
Hey, Cory, sorry, this one comes with a cupcake. Get that away from me. I only want the icing.
Give me that icing, Henry. You know I'm not a breadhead. But no, I worked at a job where people would always like show up. You know, like they like office snacks or whatever.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of Magnolia things, and I would just go and like be like scoop it off. But the banana pudding's always the best thing.
Yeah, and
But
I mean,
now does anyone care about Magnolia anymore?
yeah, it's
I get
weird how
banana
it's
pudding
still...
to bring home to my dad for Christmas every year.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
But
people
no.
still go, but it's sort of so passé by now. You know, I mean, same with like Budokan, like the restaurant.
Yes, I remember when I first moved here, my friend's brother was a waiter at Budokan,
Yeah.
and we went, and it like blew my mind.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and it was like, whoa, it's like this huge place, and it's so cool. And
Yes,
within a
you're
couple
like,
years,
we're
it was
in
just like,
we're in an Asian palace.
I know,
Yes.
yeah. And then it became so bridge and tunnel. But we used to go there on the tour and like just sort of, it would be closed during the day, but they would give us permission to go in so people could take pictures or whatever. But it was sort of funny because when Budokan was hot, like we were like, hey, can we, have you as a tour stop? And Budokan was like, not interested. And then a couple of years later, the Budokan was like, hello, we'd like to work with you. Like, we are not that popular anymore.
It's funny. I didn't know Budokan was a spot in the show, but it totally makes sense because the times that I went there, Dale Talday, who's like a chef in New York, he owns Talday,
Yeah,
in
which
Park
is right down
Slope.
here, yeah.
He was a line cook there, and he was about to go on
Top Chef.
Top Chef. I
Yeah.
was about to say Chefing with the Stars. He was about to go on Top Chef, and I remember my friend who worked there. He was like, "This is Dale. He's one of our cooks. He's going to go on the show Top Chef." And also that night, Derek Jeter was eating there with like a bunch of his friends, like a couple Yankees and a couple other people. But that seems like such a Sex in the City type place.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Just like big, overdone, very cool for a
Yes.
moment,
Yeah,
you know?
I think doing tours tapped me into realizing the things that are hip in New York, but then move on to like you forget that it's like Wicked still runs. It's not even like the hot new show, but it's like it's sold out all the time. They're like canon New York or whatever. So I feel like Magnolia, if you looked at their books, it'd be like, the new cool cupcake, and Magnolia's like, we make more than that. They're going to be there
Yes.
forever.
Exactly.
Because
they still do have a line down the block. And
Yeah.
I mean, I did feel pretty cool when we had a good relationship with them. I would get to cut the line because the bouncer knew me.
Yeah.
Which like you've never felt cooler than when you're like a cupcake VIP and you're like, yo, hey, me. And then they're like, come in. I'm like, yeah. Like,
who is she? It's like, don't worry about it.
I know. And then
just
I would
love
take
that
these two like,
Cupcake Shop has a bouncer.
oh,
It's
yeah, I
amazing.
know. Yeah.
we got to keep all those breadheads out of here.
That guy's seen some shit.
It's like so New York. Like, oh, too many people want the one thing. Welcome to New York City.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's totally true. Yeah.
Get that icing addict out of here.
Hey, get him out of here. Henry, don't feed that guy in the alley. Don't give him the icing bag.
Well, that's like I talked to someone who said like cronuts are still lying down the block.
Yes.
I
and that was
bet.
like Craigslist, buy them for $100. Now no one cares about them, but everyone does because
Well, because also it trickles and trickles. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
when I think about the meatpacking district now, it's like, okay, that used to be a really cool spot. Then it was Bridge and Tunnel. Now it's Taurus. Like, and now all those people who were meatpacking are in Williamsburg, and like just these weird ways that it cycles. And soon meatpacking will be like Times Square. Like, oh, your parents are like, there's this cool hip neighborhood called the meatpacking district.
That's totally true though, and like not in a elitist way, but like you see how New York ends up just kind of New York, and I guess cities like it, but a lot of times New York, especially with Sex and the City, just it just like blossoms out more and more and more and more.
Oh, I know.
To where people know what Magnolia is because of that show, and then
like fashion trends, like the nameplate necklace, it was like hip in New York, and then it took about 5 years to get to suburban America, and like it's so weird how the trends can be so much later, but the source material is often like New York, Sex and the City, or
I remember being I think I was at my sister's house. She lives in like rural Connecticut, and I remember being at a Dunkin' Donuts, seeing this thing called like the Dunkin' Donuts croissant donut, and it was like their cronut, and I was like, oh yeah, this is like started in this one place in Soho, and it goes out to where it's everyone like wants to have that thing.
Yeah, it's so strange.
That's why even if I ever go to like a loft type apartment that's like a real big artsy looking loft, and I've had a few friends and dated a few girls that like will have the apartment that I'm like, that's just what I thought New York was growing up, because I would see the movies made in like,
Ghost, big,
big, like those ones that it's like it's big and it's right in the middle of the city, and but we're on the delay. We're now like, to get that you have to be in Forest Hills or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and that's another thing I think you guys should touch on is the apartments of the gals. Like, when as a tour guide, people are always like, "Oh my God, Carrie's apartment!" Wow, and it's like it's so unrealistic.
Yeah, right,
I mean, her whole storyline of being a freelance journalist. I mean, like, and the pay rate that she claimed to get was a preposterous. I mean, all of it is impossible.
What was her apartment? It's $700 a month. That's what I always.
Yeah, I think it was like $700 or $750 because it was rent stabilized or something. But
which isn't crazy. There are people in my building that pay $500 a month.
Yeah, I mean, if you've just been there forever, like my apartment was rent stabilized for a long time, and it was cheap as hell. Like if you have an old agreement, it's feasible, but also it was supposed to be on the Upper East Side. But I mean, but also the layout. I mean, just a lot of it. I was like, I don't know how. I doubt. I mean, I guess if her rent is so cheap, but as far as what she took home, like salary wise from her job, buying that many Manolos and going to all those cool clubs, like that's just not possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Well. We got to watch.
I feel like we got to get into this one.
We have
There's so much to do.
Episode 7.
I don't even know the title or anything.
It's The Monogamists.
The Monogamists.
Monogamists.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
No,
do you
I haven't
remember
either.
any? Do you remember anything?
I
from this
don't
episode?
really. Yeah, I feel like I tried to block out season 1, but I'll be interested to see it anyway.
I thought it was the Monologists, and it's just each of them doing monologues.
Yes.
By Eve Ensler. She wrote Vagina Monologues.
I know. I'm a woman. Yeah.
All right, let's go watch the
Monologists by Eve Ensler.
There we go.
We'll be back.
Episode 7, The Monogamists. Carrie and Mr. Big begin dating on a regular basis, but she begins to question their commitment after bumping into him on a date with another woman. Samantha looks for an apartment to purchase, while Charlotte dates a man who prefers oral sex. Later, Miranda becomes jealous after seeing Skipper with another woman. And now, back to the boys.
Welcome back, everybody.
Ooh.
Wow. What
The Monologists. The Monogamists.
what an episode.
Yeah.
The Monogamists.
John?
That was yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Tell us what happened.
Oh, all right. We're gonna. For those of you who didn't watch, we just read the synopsis, and now I'm gonna give a brief rundown. Feel free to interject here if you all think I'm missing anything. It was this episode was about monogamy. It was about choosing one person in the sea of almost infinite possibilities in New York City, which seems like there is at times. We have Carrie wrestling with a big who is seen on another date with another woman. We have Miranda, who's a little bit jealous of the Skip because he's dating another woman. We have Charlotte, who found Mr. Perfect but does not like to give the blowjobs. And Who am I missing?
Samantha. Realtor monogamy.
Realtor monogamy. And
Great little twist on
Oh
it.
yeah.
love this episode because we got a little perspective on all of the ladies, and the main arc of the episode was Big and Carrie and her kind of. She was seen Big a little bit too much. She committed, I believe, she said the cardinal sin. She forsaked her girlfriends for a boyfriend, and she felt like she was really in a relationship. They were going somewhere. And then when she sees Big on another date with someone else, she gets a little bit devastated and has to wrestle with that. And yeah, that's essentially what happened. I won't do a scene by scene breakdown. This one's pretty straightforward.
I feel like after last week, it was like we were back with the family. We had Skipper there.
Oh, good.
And Mr. Big. We had all our girls.
We had a great Skipper sex scene. By the way.
We did. That's
Yeah.
that's not the first Skipper sex scene. Was there a Skipper Miranda sex scene, or have there been any?
I don't remember.
I think we might have just had.
But if you're gonna do a sex scene, I want it to be to be Skipper and someone else.
That was one of the best sex scenes in so far, certainly.
Also hilarious. Like I just love when they play with, sort of awkward physicality, him grabbing the phone over that girl's head, just like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing to watch, but amazing.
the cord in her
The
face.
cord in her face
Yes.
was classic.
Yeah, and he's like inside her being like, I don't think this is gonna work.
Right.
You
I
know?
It was a great line. It's, are you breaking up with me while you're still inside me?
Yes. That was
And
amazing.
I just love that Skipper thinks of himself as the private stud horse. It's just
He said that was his line to Miranda.
classic.
He said, "I'm not going to be your private stud horse." And then didn't he call her? You go, Miss Dial a Fuck.
Yes.
I heard those two things, and I was like, there was a writer that was really proud of like those two things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be Skipper's dream to be used for sex?
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like, dude, you wish, you
Right.
know.
That's what I think is so funny. This is the first time when he walks past with the girl, it's like, oh, the little geek has like a little bit of power. And then the second he's
Yeah.
back with Miranda, he just like gives it all back to her. He's like, I love you.
I know, yeah.
And yeah, what a sensitive little boy.
And I mean, I love that scene when they walk by and Skipper's with the girl who's like, very in the span of
At
30
Vogue
seconds.
and-
Yeah, she name drops like Vogue, lived in Paris, like dream date that they just went on,
Yeah.
and Miranda's like, cool. Great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was great seeing Miranda like kind of up against a wall.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which that's the last episode we saw. Miranda was dating the spanking guy, and she tried to bring out the spanking thing to him, and he was like, and just walked away. So that's like 2 times that I feel like we've seen her on her heels a little bit.
Yeah.
And Cynthia Nixon is such an amazing actress too, but like, yeah, her dealing with processing embarrassment, or like, she's so funny at it. And I find that so relatable too, that like, you don't really care about a dude, and then you see him on a date with somebody else, and you're like, wait, hold up.
Yeah.
I went on 4 dates with this guy once, and I was like, no thanks. And then he cast me in this thing, and then he was like directing on set, and I was like, yeah, it's going down tonight. Like, and it did. But yeah, I was like, I didn't like you before, but now,
That is such a, I mean, that can be dealt with in like any TV show ever, but it's like such a human thing. And what is it? Like, what is it that makes you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just that seeing someone in a context in which they don't need you, and they're maybe, and also, I mean, I know seeing this guy on set was hot because he was like a very plugged in director, and he was calling the shots, and like, so seeing him being masterful at work was pretty hot. But yeah, I don't know if it's just that like that sort of phenomenon of like you want what you can't like have, or what
the
doesn't
grass
need
is
you.
always greener.
Yeah.
Is that more of a girl thing or a guy thing? Would that happen more so with guys?
I feel like there's a little bit of a "don't know what you got till it's gone" kind of thing, which is also a song by
Bay
the band
Paradise.
Cinderella.
It's also by Joni Mitchell.
Well, I believe the
I think the Cinderella one is more of a masterpiece. We can all agree.
I think I've heard one in grocery stores more often, and it's the Cinderella one.
Really?
I don't even know who John Mitchell is. Okay. Anyway,
Johnny. But I don't know. I do think it's equal for men and women. Like, don't you guys think that's a phenomenon where, like, you might be like, oh, this girl's cute, whatever, I don't care. And then, I don't know, you see her out killing it or on a date with somebody else. And then you're like, hold up.
I feel like it would be more on a date with someone else than like
Then just, yeah.
but not all the time. I don't know. I guess, what do you think? Do you guys have what would change your mind about a girl if you're like, oh, I'm kind of into her, and then all of a sudden, like, her being jealousy of like being out with another guy?
No, that wouldn't do anything for me.
I don't think that would do anything for me, because I think maybe it's a defense mechanism, but I could see then it'd be like, man, she looks cute, but that guy's gonna have to deal with all that bad stuff about her. I'm like,
Yeah,
good luck, Bob.
exactly. If I'm with someone, or when I was with someone and I decided it wasn't going to work, then I processed that and kind of established that this is not going to work. So if I saw someone else out with her, I would just think like, poor guy, he's going to have to deal with, like, it wouldn't change me at all. But
Well, I feel like that's
I think with like someone like a career or something else like that, that would probably have a lot more effect than a romantic relationship.
You're saying not the girl having a career, but you're saying like for what would get you as a thing, you're like a career that I wished I would have done.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what would, like, if I was like, no, I'm not really interested in that. And then if I saw like a friend crushing it in XYZ job, I could be like, oh man, I really wish that was me, but
not romantically.
Yeah, I think romantically, what would get it for me is not I don't know if it would, but not seeing a girl with a guy, but seeing someone like out living their life and totally happy. Like if you were out of a relationship, and that this is what social media is the worst for.
Oh my
is you just
God,
see like vacation pictures of like a person with their friends being like, we all just decided to go to Bermuda. It's freaking great. And then also even them being like, I don't care. Like, I don't really even need a relationship. I'm just kind of cool. And you're like, oh man, look, they don't even care about me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they even feel like they need somebody else. They're just out there living their life.
Right.
And here I am. I'm an idiot at home by myself.
Yeah.
You know?
That's kind of what Miranda did. She's like, I just want to, I just need to interrupt your good time just to feel good, or to like get like a little thing in.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what sometimes, and I mean, I love Miranda so much, but I think that, yeah, she reminds me of a lot of people I know.
Flawed like anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. We're all flawed. But yeah, I think she kind of was like, wait, Skipper, you don't get to move on from me.
Yeah.
Reel him back in.
Right.
And then it's like, but I don't really want it, FYI, And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's very relatable,
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing with, I guess that's what Big is exemplifying in the episode. Like, if he saw Carrie out, he'd be like, oh, how are you? If anything, maybe he would get a jab in of like, oh, that's your business or something, but maybe just move on. I don't know. I think it is true what the episode was showing, that's like a guy is gonna have the brakes on more often than the girl. Of Big being like, I kind of want to like, I like what we're doing, and Carrie being like, come on, like, let's move this along. Are we? What are we? And he's like, we're great.
Right.
I got these other girls. Like,
exactly.
This is awesome, isn't
and
it?
she even says that they never had the conversation about exclusivity, which I think is like very important. That I think before that conversation happens, you don't owe anyone anything.
It's true. Yeah. You don't.
And that's why I think the conversation is a good thing, so people's feelings don't get hurt. So because when you communicate that you're on the same page, there's an understanding. But I think she was actually a little bit ridiculous in assuming that he would even be exclusive to her when they never had that chat at all.
Yeah, and because different people want different things. You know, I think that some people assume, well, we're building momentum, we're going out, and it's like, well, maybe, I mean, in Big, this will be a through line of Big forever. I mean, he's been divorced at this point.
Is he divorced when we first see him?
Yes, he is, but we don't even know that yet, but he is. But yeah, and he's just sort of a man about town. He's a guy with a lot of money. He cruises around, talks on his car phone. Like he's not a dude who's looking for monogamous commitments.
Right.
And Carrie always is. So they just are at loggerheads of that issue. But yeah, like haven't discussed it. So like, why would you assume that he's only with you?
When we started the show, I guess I didn't expect for Carrie to be as interested in monogamy as she is. Of being like, I want a relationship.
Right.
Like she seems to always be pushing towards that. And I just never expected that when I started the show.
Yeah, and it's weird. I think it runs contrary to her sort of character description. Is like she's this, sex writer, out living life, exploring sex in New York. But she is very much a traditional romantic, like
that's true.
She has these lines in the future where she's just like, I want all encompassing love. I want crazy, like she really wants this romantic sort of dream. But it runs very counter to what you'd expect from like a sex writer.
It's also interesting that throughout the course of the entire show, from episode 1, Big is introduced. And so it almost seems like if you were going to think of a show like this, you'd be like, okay, and then season 2 or 3, we have this person who's a sex writer who's out living, and we're going to introduce the red herring for them that they're going to try to get. But that's from episode 1.
Yeah.
Her and Big have an on again, off again thing for the whole show, it seems like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's every season. And there are times where he's totally out of it. And and she, dates Berger, she dates Aiden. But yeah, it is such a strange, because you would think, like they would, in season 1 especially, there's so many short-term characters, Skipper and So it's sort of, surprising that they would have like the main character who's the protagonist already be sort of felled by this huge crush. Like,
Although another thing that's interesting, which we don't ever really talk about this, but the show Girls, which some people had said was a modern Sex in the City, from episode 1 of Girls, Adam.
I know. I watched 2 episodes and I was like, bye, thanks. I've been to Williamsburg and I've seen Entitled Kids. Bye.
But from the first episode of that, Adam and Hannah are together. So her Mr. Big, oh my God, how far we've fallen.
I know, yeah.
That was this generation's Mr. Big. Get out of here. He didn't even have a
wear a
cell
suit.
phone.
Yeah.
And now you think you're Kylo Ren? Shut up.
Get out of here.
What are you doing?
What if the
Gonna
last
go-
Star Wars they cast Christopher Noth
Noth.
as Kylo Ren?
I always thought it'd be funny because like the first episode with Adam, he just like he has like really rough sex with Hannah, who's like jerking off on her chest. And when I saw Star Wars, I just thought it'd be funny if Kylo Ren had a scene like that. Like, I don't know.
But it's with a lightsaber. That's how he kills someone.
But I will say that they actually in Girls and Big Girls fan. I watched every
Wait,
episode of
are you a
that.
fan of Girls or Big Girls?
Both.
Hey.
Both.
Big Girls is another great HBO show. Big Girl Lies.
Big.
Big Little Girl Lies.
So the mashup, it's all one universe.
Yeah, exactly.
But in that they try and kind of they toy with that in the last season of like Adam is just like tells the girl he's with, I forget her name, the British one, and it's just like,
Shoshana?
yeah, I've got to be with Lena, I've got to be with Hannah, and they go back and they try it and it's perfect for a day, and then the same problems start back up again, and then he just had to do that to move on with his life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she had to do it too. And I wonder if some part of it was maybe not directly inspired, but of that trope of being like the person you should be with, even though you have all the information you need, and then it's perfect, and then the same problems come back. So they seem like they don't really have, the only problems they seem to have so far is like being on a different page of not having that conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna shift focus here a little bit. I'm really happy to have a female perspective here on this. Before you were here, we would often discuss these things, and it's not always the best with just males. But I want to talk about the blowjob tug of war.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
is that a thing?
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
bring in
I
what
was
that
surprised.
That's Charlotte's storyline where she's with this perfect guy. He has this perfect golden retriever, and every night they go home.
That's what he
after
calls
their
his
date.
penis.
That's what he
The
calls his
golden
penis.
retriever.
It's full of long golden hair.
It's very
like,
shaggy.
It looks like He-Man. But they engage in the blowjob tug of war where he tries to push her head down, and then she comes
Yeah.
up, and finally
You
she
know-
says, "I don't like doing it."
And I got to say, when that happened the first time where you see him kind of put his hand on the back of her head, I was dying laughing because I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me. And you guys seemed surprised.
I was very
That you were
surprised.
laughing, or
that it was happening.
That it was happening.
Yeah, have you never, like, do you not, this
There's
is a
something-
move that some guys do. I mean, granted,
Yeah.
it was more in college and high school, but it's a move.
I think that I don't know if we were.
I've been hanging out with monsters, apparently.
Do it.
No, I think that like I don't. The surprising thing, it was almost like aghast of where, because when you see it in that context, like there's something where it's like, oh wait, what's going on? And like, I guess there are things where you're like, oh, is this? It feels so charged where you're like, oh, is he just gonna like push her head down there?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
and
what are we
also
doing?
they were fully clothed, which is
Yeah.
weird. Like
Totally.
usually you're naked in bed.
Right.
And I mean, I had a guy do that to me and I literally was like, elevator to the basement. Like just be like, because he was like pushing my head down. So I was kind of making fun of him pushing my head down. I was like, elevator goes down, just to be like, like, I mean, but, or some dudes like will grab your ears like they're knobs
What?
almost. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My
Sorry.
goodness.
Oh, college was crazy.
I feel like there's this was more like clothes on, like I'm about to get a blowjob while you're like starting to
barely making out.
barely
Yeah.
making out. Like I'm sure there's a way that is more normal to suggest like I would love to give a blowjob, but I feel like I've made that suggestion once and then see where it goes.
And I was having none of it. I was like, absolutely not, Kevin. We're about to film. We're about to
I was
do a
like,
podcast.
You have a strong neck too. You can really resist.
I've
the-
only worked out my neck.
The tug of war is going to go Corey's direction every time.
Yeah, every neck tug of war I always win.
Also, sorry. I always used to think if when it comes to hooking up stuff, like if you ask, you shall not receive. You know, like don't ask me to blow you.
Oh, see, that's
Let
what
it happen.
I was just gonna suggest, just like, isn't it better to like do the suggestion and be like, how about a blowjob? but that's not.
Apparently,
that's
she
not
just
it.
answered your question.
Yeah,
I know.
before
Well,
said
I mean,
it.
even though I do think like communication is important, consent is important, but I don't know. I used to. There was this one guy who just kept asking for stuff, and I was like, dude, just let me get to it. You
There's
know?
a thing where in any relational thing, like it's part of the romance to just be like you let things happen, and there's a curiosity and like it's a communication between the two of you.
Yeah.
And then it's always funny afterward, like whether sexual or not, to just be like, man, I was really hoping that things were going to go this way, or like that's even like down to when you're with a friend and you guys end up going on a date or something. It's like, oh my gosh, I was really hoping you were going to ask me out, or like I was hoping we were going to make out or something like that. As opposed to being like, hi, I would like to make out with you.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, I had a first date makeout recently, and the guy was like, I was hoping you would do that back at the previous bar, and I was like, that's so cute.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was sweet, but I mean, to speak to the whole like asking for head, I liked in when the four gals are out for dinner, when Miranda's like, if you can't get, like you give head because you want to get head, and
Yeah.
so I feel like, okay, if there's a question of like, oh, you want a blowjob, cool, start licking puss, and then she'll get the, like,
Yeah.
one hand washes the other, so to speak.
Yeah, this scene sort of mirrored the anal scene from the earlier episode when they're all talking about
In the
anal
cab?
and have their different in the cab, from episode 2 or 3.
Something like that.
But they all seem to have. Was Samantha like just down like I just like giving head?
Yeah. Oh, and
No,
she.
Samantha said it's a power thing because you might be on your knees, but at least you got him by the balls.
Yes.
Which,
Yeah.
like, I
Great
like.
line. Great line.
I
Yeah.
like how their discussion of blowjobs all like paints such a good picture of their individual characters.
Exactly. I
too.
mean, and that's the beauty of the four of them is you always have Samantha who's like down to, like really excited about sexuality and sex positive. You have Charlotte who's extremely repressed. You have Miranda who's sort of like, I don't know, just give it to me. And then like the sort of romantic Carrie.
Right.
But yeah, I liked what Samantha said about it. Like, and it reminded me of this woman I used to work with who was like, she sort of convinced all of us at my office that like giving head is so sexy. It's really you're in control. You're setting the tempo. Like it's an opportunity for you to show off your body. Like, and it really reframed how I think about it. And I'm like, yeah, it's awesome.
Well, I imagine if
Okay,
you're,
Kevin.
if you're
Kevin, I'll
college
reconsider. I'll reconsider, Kevin. After what Selena said, I will reconsider, Kevin, when we're done. No, John, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I imagine if your college experiences were the tug of war, that would have you'd naturally have a kind of a skewed perspective on
and
that.
if it's like you feel like you're being sort of boondoggled into hooking up, like
Right.
don't trick me.
Exactly.
Like I am an active participant and I can enjoy this too. I just don't want to be made to feel like I'm being like led into an alley. You know,
Right,
like
right.
Yeah.
we're adults. Everyone enjoys this. Let's enjoy it together on the
Yeah.
same page. You know.
I think we were talking about this last night because Selena and I were having a beer with some friends.
I was having a seltzer with bitters for everyone who's doing dry January.
So
Sorry.
I was doing dry January, and it just every 3 days falls off the wheels.
I know. I've had three relapses, but not too bad. Hey.
Yeah. But it seems like that whole blowjob conversation and like the head pushing and the not communication seems pretty relevant right now with like the conversations with sexual harassment and with all that stuff. And
Affirmative consent. Yeah.
and knowing like, okay, the second time he did that, is that being like, whoa, do I have to fucking say this twice?
Yeah.
But what we were talking about yesterday was how Sex in the City has been getting a lot of flack from what I've heard the past year or two of being like, there's a lot of issues with that show. But if that episode wasn't happening, that conversation was happening in 1999, and it was the only place. So it's like sometimes they're trudging through this difficult territory, and it has to be a funny show. But it's like, yeah, if you're the one that talks about it, you're going to take some body shots.
Yeah. Exactly.
And stumble your way through it. But a lot of the episodes we've had different issues or different things that it's like, ooh, that doesn't play well. But that was done in an interesting way. I thought there was like, I don't know, they finally did communicate at the end, which she's like, I don't like to
It was a great communication because she said, are you willing to give up a woman who cares about you and potentially the future mother of your children, someone who's going to support your cares
Your
and your dreams for a blowjob? And he responds with, will you at least lick my balls?
bargaining.
And that's when you know they're a catch.
Right. But I just love that idea because that's sometimes what I like think about people who cheat. Like someone who will be unfaithful to their spouse or their girlfriend. It's like you're really if you break it and boil it down, you're really throwing away your whole life for like a blowjob.
Yeah.
Or like a night of sex.
Like
and it's
one
like,
gross quick transaction.
is it like, it's like they did a great job of like approaching that before it actually happened, but people who are unfaithful, it's like, what were you thinking?
Oh, I
You have
know.
like a wife, children,
Exactly.
career, you're a politician.
Yeah.
Also, you could like send a dick pic to a stripper or something.
I
Like,
know.
what in the hell were you thinking? It's it's
And I
wild.
like too, they sort of, Charlotte's final monologue when she says to him, just like, the mother of your children, I appreciate that they're addressing sort of the Madonna horror bind for women of like, you're supposed to be this like hot, insatiable sex goddess, but also bear children and raise them and be a nurturing mother figure. And it's hard to do both. And it's hard for, I think, partners to see their partner in those different roles, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was interesting. She gets seems like as we're watching it, Charlotte gets the short end of the stick of being like a prude, but also, with something like that, you're like, I don't know. She finally likes this guy, and he throws it away because it's like being like, "Will you lick my fucking balls?"
But I did
like.
I don't know if we've said this or not, but like I do think it was a power move of her to just be like, goodbye, I'm leaving, I'm walking out of this right now.
Well, because Samantha would have been like, now's the perfect time, lick his fucking balls, and he'll do whatever you want.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think though, early on in a relationship, I think is when you should be a little like, okay, just be nice, do something, even if you don't love doing this. It's early. Just try it right now. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to throw away all your things that you're really committed to, but I don't know. Early on, you should be on best behavior. Try to be agreeable. Go with it. See what happens. Yeah.
Do you guys think that she just didn't want to do it because that guy's golden retriever was there the whole time?
Oh my God.
Always
Like
just
looking.
6 inches from them?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, that is what is kind of funny about that arc. Then is the beginning is like the dog is what started it all, and at the end it's like the dog's still there.
Yeah.
Of being like,
I just want to watch.
That's one thing that's always impressed me about the writing of Sex and the City is like they connect it the beginning to the end so well.
Yes.
And they weave in an overarching theme and it manifests in all four girls' lives in many different ways. Like they do a great job.
Well, with the scene at the end and a few different scenes, I was like, there's so many points in this, like you're talking that could have like the Curb Your Enthusiasm, like bum bum bum.
And the way they did it in this episode was, of course, the talking head shots. We had another round of talking heads. And
some
monogamy.
good ones.
Some real good
Todd
ones.
Berry cameo.
Oh, we had our TB in there, Todd Berry cameo. That was great.
We got to try and is he if that's the only episode he's in?
I think so.
Man,
But still.
I mean,
one of the awesome.
One of the best things about this show, watching it now, is seeing all the actors that either as like as an episode co-star, like we had Justin Theroux in this one, but also just the bit parts, like Todd Berry. We had John Benjamin in an earlier one, I think.
Yeah.
But that Todd Berry one, what he said, they were it was the monogamy runner of like all these people talking about like, do they cheat or are they monogamous? And what was his thing? It was something like talking about monogamy and how he really keeps it up and it's very important, but he's only monogamous with prostitutes.
Yeah, exactly.
What was he doing? He was pushing like a cart of
He's like
water
delivery guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Todd Berry is a comedian, stand-up comedian who has he's around New York City performing and everything.
He was in The Wrestler.
He's in The Wrestler.
He's in the Wrestler. He did the crowd work tour, which is on Netflix, I think, which is his special.
Not. It's on Louis C.K.'s website.
But I think it's on Netflix now.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think it's exclusively on there anymore.
He has a few things on Netflix, but that must have been, 20... That's 20 years ago when we filmed it.
Yeah. I mean, and Justin
17.
Theroux looks like a baby.
Who I don't know who that is.
Justin
Jennifer
Theroux.
Aniston's husband.
And he wrote Zoolander.
I didn't realize he wrote Zoolander.
Yeah.
What are some other? I know one movie that I want to talk about.
They met on the set of what was that movie that was very funny?
Not Horrible Bosses.
No, before that, they met on the set of. It's like an outdoor. It's like a Wet Hot American Summer, except it's like at a hippie dippy camp.
Oh, it's it was filmed in upstate New York, and it's got all the state people in it.
Yes,
it's
a great movie.
You and I watched it.
David Wayne.
It's a David Wayne movie.
Yeah, and Justin Theroux is very.
I thought that was the name of the movie.
David Wayne. It's called David Wayne. Kevin and I watched it upstate. It's called Wanderlust.
Yes,
Really
so
good.
good.
They met there.
Yeah, they met there. Well, I think they'd been friends for a couple years, but I think on filming Wanderlust is when they really got together.
That's cool.
And I'm so happy for both of them. He's amazing, and so is she.
Well, a movie. Can anyone name the movie that's recent that Christopher Noth and Justin Theroux were in together, and they both play horrible dirtbags in it?
No.
I didn't know this
Phantom
was movie
Thread.
trivia.
Phantom Thread.
I know,
they
yeah.
both play Daniel Day-Lewis in the
Wow.
movie. No, they were in the movie White Girl together, which came out about a year and a half ago,
The
2 years
Marlon-
ago.
Wait,
Yeah, I know, not
called
a
White
Wayans
Girl.
Brothers.
I thought you meant the Wayans Brothers movie.
White Chicks?
White Chick.
Yeah.
Well, what's very funny is a friend of ours, our friend Bill Granberg, he was working doing this like press thing, and they had to talk to Justin Theroux about that movie, and they were going to make the joke White Chicks, and Justin Theroux was like, everybody makes that joke to me about this movie. Everyone's always talking about White Chicks. But it's a movie about like these girls that moved to Bushwick. It's like a very much like gritty gentrification type thing where it's these
okay.
young white hipster girls that move to Bushwick. They start doing drugs with the like Puerto Rican guys across the street, and then they get involved in these like drug things. But basically, the main character works at like a Vice type company, and Justin Theroux is her cool older boss who's like late 30s, does cocaine in the office.
Oh my god.
Starts hooking up with her, who she's the intern. And then there's a really, really terrible turn where she has. This is going to spoil the entire movie.
Don't do it.
I'm
Don't do
into
it.
it.
I won't do it.
God.
Instead, give us a 1 to 5 Cosmo rating.
1 to 5 Cosmo
how
rating
good is
on it. It's a 3. It's
Cosmos?
it's a visceral movie. It's produced by Christine Vachon, who helped make Kids, the movie
Oh.
Kids.
Oh, wow.
yeah,
So
I
it's got
love
the
kids.
same kind of like weight of Kids where you get out of it and you're like,
Whoa.
wow, I feel like I just got punched in the face.
Ooh, I love
but
it.
Christopher Noth plays a huge scumbag in it
Ooh,
too.
I gotta see this.
Great movie.
Yeah.
I think Chris Noth, all of the acting is good. I don't think there's anyone that stands out as bad, but I do think Christopher Noth and Miranda, Cynthia Nixon, kind of stand out as like some pretty great actors.
I
Yeah.
don't know if Noth stands out or not as a good actor.
Yeah, you were asking that question
I
while
said
we
that
were
at
watching.
the end. There's a lot of times where Noth, I can't tell if he's trying to play a sarcastic guy or I'm like, did he just not know how to deliver that line? Like
I
a couple times where he's always like, "Hey, baby," like he just.
Yeah.
There's a couple Noth lines where I'm like, is that who Big is?
He's-
I don't know. There's
I think that the big character is supposed to be
a cheese ball.
a little bit. I mean, because
Catchphrase
he's
guy.
this.
He's the
He's supposed to be
catchphrase
this
guy.
like older guy
He is.
who's like kind of a mover and a shaker, but a little bit of a cheese dick. But like, there's something kind of nice about
But
that.
I think if that's the case, then I'm like, I totally get it. And I is for as long as
I know
he
what
was in
line you're
this
talking
show-
about.
What was it?
It's because I was like, this would be a great line to just have in your life.
It's
Anytime
when they're
you
at
want
the
to
party
change
with the guy with
yeah,
the
and
mustache.
she's like, "How many people are you dating?" And he's
He
like,
just says, "Let's find Max."
"Yeah, exactly." Yeah.
Maybe it was then.
It
I mean,
was
I
'cause-
think he is supposed to be evasive and just like, change the subject.
It's just
you
he's
know?
got. I think maybe he's playing it well, but he's got such smarm about him. Where he's like, "Let's find Max." He's always got this like weird thing happening with his eyebrows, but that's the character of Big, maybe.
Oh, totally. And you'll see more of that too. Yeah, like it really is. I mean, and I think that's partially what she likes about him. Just like, oh, I can't get a straight answer out of you. You know?
Yeah.
Even at the end, the thing that happened at the end, we were saying that
Merry-go-round.
Yes.
was it her inner monologue or was she actually saying it? Was
She says it,
said it.
yeah, and
She's like,
and it's
maybe
very
you
poetic.
find this person.
Yeah, she's
in-
like, I've been running and I've been going through all the, like,
merry-go-round.
yeah. She's like, and will
That's
you
what it
stand
says.
still with me? And he just like puts his arm around her and looks at the sky. and then the monologue is like, oh, and isn't it great? Like what? No.
Yeah, she's smiling and he's just kind of staring like, all right, she called me
just-
out here because he says, like, you called me out here at 3 a.m. to stand with you.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
just does it.
Which
I'm a
also-
He
Noth
doesn't
guy.
seem into it.
I'm a Noth guy. I'll Corey, I like him. I think he does a great job.
Oh, I think I would fall for his tricks 100%.
Forget me Noth.
I'm figuring out if I'm a Nothroth. I'm trying to figure out what a Nothhead would be.
A forget-me-noth.
David Lee Noth.
Forget-me-noth.
David
A
Lee
forget me
Noth.
Noth. I'm not. I don't know if I'm a forget me Noth.
Um,
I think he's got to be a good actor. He's like worked for this long, and he was in like that indie movie that I saw. So he's got to be a good actor. I just there are
he
times
said
when I
that
see
indie
him.
movie that no one saw. He must be good.
I guess
good actors.
I guess I equate if like bigger stars can be in an indie movie, then I'm like, oh, that seems like the
That's so
opportunity to do
funny.
some real acting. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it seems like some of your
There's a
issues
lot of
are
bad
with the
acting on
character.
TV
Yeah.
by big people,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
maybe by this big person.
Eat it, Noth. Eat it.
But no,
You
Kevin,
shut up.
yeah, Kevin, I agree. I think the character is supposed to be a little bit smarmy or like slippery. And yeah, so I think you might not like the character of Big, but
Maybe is Big getting under your skin because you don't think he's because you want a little more commitment.
I don't know if you just said that because I looked like I was staring at the floor. I was reading my notepad.
I knew that.
I
but
wasn't like, oh,
you weren't
God.
crying.
And
Yeah.
Corey's really bummed about his commitment levels over here.
I know. Do you think there is?
How did you feel when he was at dinner with another woman?
Big.
Were you really upset?
Hey, listen. When the carries away, the big's gonna play.
You guys should have T-shirts made that say that, and everyone would be like, "Why do you have that shirt in 2018?"
We're working on our catchphrase right now. Yeah, a 20-year-old catchphrase.
Let's just make a ridiculous merchandise.
Oh my yeah. Also, T-shirt says "abso-fucking-lutely." Obviously, I mean,
100%.
standard.
Do those already exist?
I want an abso-fucking-lutely
do.
fanny pack. It would be so good.
Just pay for it.
Or a giant flower pin in the center. It's like abso-fucking-lutely.
Abso-fucking. First Cosmo? Was that the first Cosmo that we
I
saw?
believe that was the first Cosmo we saw, and
And
was
they
with
called it
Stanford
by
Blatch.
name.
They
Yeah.
said the Cosmopolitan. We
I know.
watched it. We watched close-up shots of it getting made, and then they hand them to him, and then they call it by name.
Yeah. On the
At
Sex and the
Stanford.
City tour, we used to have Cosmos. Like.
I don't know what's in a Cosmo. Can we
Can
go
we
over
talk
that?
about this?
I'm
Can we talk
actually
about
not sure either. I think it's cranberry juice for the pink color and like vodka and something else.
It sounds awful. Are they good?
As
They're
a sex,
okay.
I was gonna say, as someone who led Sex and the City tours and watched the show, do you like a Cosmopolitan?
Not really, no.
It doesn't seem like it's a great drink.
Yeah, it's just, I think just people like that it was like, look, it looks like it's in a martini glass. It's pink for girls.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when on the tour, thankfully you got to drink as a tour guide, which was pretty cool. But I would always get a Stella because I was like, I also got to do the rest of the tour and I
Yeah.
can't be that banged up.
Yeah,
But I know some of the other tour guides would literally like drink vodka on the bus.
Here we go. We got ½ ounce fresh lime juice, 1 ounce cranberry juice, ½ ounce, Cointreau?
Cointreau.
Cointreau?
That's
and
got
1.5
sugar,
ounce
right?
vodka
They put
citron.
it.
Okay.
They put Cointreau in Margs. It's like kind of like a citrusy.
Add all
liqueur.
ingredients in a cocktail shaker filled with ice. Shake well and double strain to large cocktail glass. Garnish
lemon-
with lime wheel.
Lime wheel, yeah. I mean, I feel like those ladies nowadays, or in real life, if the show was real life, would get vodka tonics or vodka sodas because there's just unnecessary sugar in that drink.
Yeah.
You don't need the sugar.
Yeah, it's true.
And I mean, those girls were. I mean, I thought the fashion today was pretty good. I thought some of those dresses hold up, right?
Oh God! I mean, it reminded me of stuff I used to wear in the late '90s. You know, just that sort of.
So you were stylish in the late '90s.
Yeah, I mean, but it's interesting to see those trends. Like even when Charlotte meets the guy with the dog, did you notice her shoes? There were these like dumpy platform sandals that like I remember vividly.
This is why it's so good to have a female perspective on this, because the question so far, did you notice her shoes, has always we've been like, what?
Did you notice her earrings? No. Her shoes? No. Her dress?
my God.
No.
Yeah.
Her
Did you
boobs?
notice that her
Yes.
nipples were pointing out of her dress?
know.
Yes.
Well, that's what we said.
She was so cold.
We talked about it in the episode. I was like, Carrie apparently never wears a bra, and you were like, yes, but
she wears it to bed.
Always.
Which was a very deliberate choice. And I remember reading from the costume designer, who I'm blanking on her name, and I'm so angry at myself because she's sort of this iconic costume designer. But she said that because they wanted Carrie to be seen as such a sort of romantic, and she loves old New York and old-timey romance movies, they wanted to have her sleep in a bra just as sort of like an old-timey romantic thing. Patricia Field, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Patricia Field, amazing. But yeah, they made some very deliberate choices. But yeah, like very few bras out in the world, lots of bras in bed.
There's that's an interesting thing in a show like this, because there's nudity in the show. But
We saw.
we saw
Kim Cattrall, straight up, yeah.
straight up.
Sarah
boobs.
Jessica Parker had a no nudity clause for herself.
That's what I was
Really?
wondering. And that's
Yeah.
why I wonder if the bras in bed thing.
Yes, I think it was part of that. They're like, let's have the character be this romantic who always wears this, so you never have to worry about.
Right. Because I don't think we've seen it so far, but I think throughout the show there's nudity for every character but Carrie, right?
Yes,
think
yeah,
there
I
is.
believe we do see. Yeah, because we definitely see. I think we see boobs on. I think all of the other
ladies.
women, and I know that Kim Cattrall has said in the later years that like she always had the most nudity, and she's the oldest of the women, and so it was hard for her to like keep her body tight because she knew she was going to have nudity, and she just felt like this is a lot harder for me, you guys. I'm 10 years older than you, you know.
Wow.
I want to see that Skipper butt.
Ooh, skip that.
We saw Skipper
Skipper's-
boxers.
And we saw his upper body. He's what I like to call fat skinny. It's like, okay, there's zero tone here, but you're not fat, I guess, you know?
Fat skin.
I say skinny fat. You say fat skinny. Same thing.
Potato.
What I did notice was Jared's unibrow. That thing was
Justin.
Justin Thoreau.
Justin
his
Thoreau.
His character's name is Jared. Yeah, and
yeah.
being an Armenian man, unibrows are something that runs strong in my
Did you?
family.
And you said power brow or
It's
something?
just insane. It was a caterpillar. It was a caterpillar crawling across the bridge right there.
Yeah.
I love the level of confidence with that unibrow, just being like,
Oh, just
come to
owning
this
it.
party, and it's like, you know what's going on there?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Do you have unibrow?
absolutely.
Did you always starting in like middle school?
Yeah,
Wow.
everyone in my family does, and it's just part of what we do.
Yeah.
If the Kardashians did no work, would they all have power brows?
Oh,
no
are you
doubt.
kidding me?
Mustaches,
Are you kidding me?
beards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, I didn't realize that. It made me think of what is his name? He's the NBA player, Anthony Davis.
Oh,
played at
yeah,
Kentucky
for
that has
Kentucky,
that just owned his unibrow.
Oh yeah.
It's a thing. But that character Jared, I think he was a douchebag, right? Like
Yeah,
he was
I
not,
think he was supposed to be that typical media
right. But
jerk.
but
yeah.
Carrie still just kind of what she did was not. I didn't like her move either.
Oh,
she
I
just
mean,
completely
Exactly. She
used
sort of
him.
like, she like leaves the party that she's at with Big because she doesn't like how he's treating her, which I get, but then like goes to another party, then calls Big
where
to
there's some
brag.
cool 30-something-year-olds. And they're
Yeah.
Say
cool
hi,
about- say
Jared.
hi. Yeah,
That's
he puts
the
him on
first
the
time.
phone.
That's the first time anyone's ever tried to make anyone jealous with cool 30-something
Yeah,
year olds.
exactly.
They're so cool. Everyone's talking about IRAs.
Also, it was just so like gross and transparent. I was like, the fact that Big even would be willing to engage in
Exactly.
this, so like what?
That's-
just
Yeah.
like, you're so thirsty, girl. What are you doing?
That's one
Exactly.
thing that I do like about Big that feels a little redeemable about him, and it happened at the end of the last episode too, where he kind of explained all of the things where Carrie thought were red flags.
Oh, right.
And he was like, "No, this happened, this happened, and this happened." And in
Yeah.
that, he's
and you'll
like,
see more of that too.
he's like, "What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I told you that I'm dating other people. Fine, I'll come down there. Like, what is going on?" I
Yeah.
like that he's very grounded in that sense.
And they do often have that dynamic where Carrie's sort of spinning, and he's like, wait, there's reasons for this. Like in the first movie, you'll see that big time, and I'm not giving anything away, but like, he's been divorced a few times by the time the first movie rolls around, and the wedding planning spirals out of control. And he's like, listen, like, I'm just trying to be grounded in the fact that this is not my first rodeo, and it feels silly to have a huge wedding at the New York Public Library, and you're like, yeah, he's being reasonable. Totally. And she got swept up in it. Okay. Like both of these things are true.
I can't wait to see that movie in 2.5 years.
Yeah, I don't think Big did anything unreasonable this episode.
No, he
I don't
didn't.
think. Like,
I think he's evasive, but
sure.
yeah, I mean, they never agreed that
Right.
they were being platonic or
Exactly.
monogamous.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's communication is an important thing for that because they haven't set up the rules or they're unsaid. Their expectations are in different places is the problem, not who they are as people. I think.
Mm-hmm.
The only storyline we really haven't touched on too much is Samantha's. I mean, we talked about her being naked, Samantha the broker. As someone who's rented a lot of apartments in New York City, I'm sure you all have too. Or, no, you probably haven't. You've only rented a
How many
couple.
I've only
you
rented
rented?
one, but
You've
I
only
have
rented one.
strong opinions on brokers in New York
Oh
City.
my gosh,
They're
that could have been that process could have been the most unrealistic thing I've seen in Sex and the City so far. Renting an apartment in New York it's a battle.
Oh,
it's a
like
battle.
it is
It's a battle. You
insane.
have to be ready to throw money down
Yeah.
when you
Immediately.
walk in the door.
I
Immediately.
know, yeah.
It's not like you're looking at these places and thinking about them.
Nope.
You go in and you get the apartment within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
or
and you
lost
better
it.
have
Yes.
$6,000 in your pocket,
Yes.
ready to
Exactly.
go.
Ready to throw all that down.
Yeah.
and then in terms of broker fees, the $2,000 you're throwing down is gone. You're just
Yeah.
paying someone to give you the keys to walk you into a place.
And those
Exactly.
brokers, there's rats and roaches, and then below that
Yeah.
are brokers.
And there's also rats and roaches in the apartments you're looking at.
that you're looking at. Which
There
is-
was a dead roach on the floor when I looked at my current apartment.
Yeah.
And I know it was the day I moved in, there was a roach. And I was like, and it was the first time I'd ever paid a broker fee. And it was that thing for someone like myself who making big decisions is like a hard thing. I was just like, oh my gosh, did I do the right thing? And I remember my friend went with me. We looked at it. And he was like, we went to a bar afterward and he was like, I don't know, man, it's a pretty good place. And I came back out the next morning early to drop off a check. And then on move-in day, we saw that roach and I have a weird apartment set up. And I was like, I don't know, is this going to be okay? And he was like, I don't know, man. If I was you, I wouldn't have done this. I was like, you were here the whole time.
Oh my God.
But it's been fantastic.
and the
I've been there
roach
for
looked up and was like, "What? There's no room. You're in now.
You're in my place now.
I got owned.
This is a
Hey.
1-bedroom, dude."
Hey, listen, vote de Blasio, okay?
I got owned so hard looking for an apartment with one of my roommates once. We were looking at this 2-bedroom apartment and there was another couple in there. There was a couple in there looking at the apartment with their kids. And we were walking around all the rooms and the guy was like, yeah, this will be way too small for the kid. And this kitchen's off. And they kept on like saying stuff like that. And I was like, all right, we're going to have a chance at this. It was over our budget. So we went into the bathroom to discuss it, my roommate and I. And I was like, I think we can make this work. And then we came out to talk to the broker and he's like, sorry, that couple already handed me cash. They got it. And I was like,
gosh.
"Ugh."
Oh my my God. And that couple was probably disparaging it to throw you guys off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were.
Oh.
It's brutal. It's
It is such a, oh my God.
It's the worst thing when you were in there with other people
Yeah.
and you're like, oh shoot, we're gonna have to fight to the death
exactly
over this.
or just slammed on cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking for an apartment in New York is among the most stressful things.
Oh my God.
around.
Yeah.
And it's-
Because also a lot of it happens so quickly, like a 2-window span.
Well, and you can't
A 2-week span, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, well, because you can't, like, if you know you have to move for 6 months, you're like, I can't really do anything till a month out.
Yeah.
It's really all
true.
you can
Right.
do.
And most places, it's like, listen, there's 5 things. You can usually look for something where you can get 4 out of 5 things. New York, it's like you can get half a thing out of 10.
I know.
It's like
yeah.
maybe
Congrats on Windows. You sorry. That's all you know. Like
Yeah,
I wanted a place, like size and location and
it's size,
price.
location, price, right? And
Yeah,
it's supposed
and-
to be pick 2 out of 3, but you don't even get that sometimes.
yeah, even
Yeah.
it's just tough. You're never gonna get something perfect. There are very few apartments you walk into in New York and are like, ooh, this is nice. That's what I thought it was actually realistic when with Samantha.
last one.
A lot of the places that they're around, I'm like, this is like upscale.
and it's like a
places.
set. It's so obviously
It's a set.
Yeah.
And this was clearly he's like, so Samantha's going around with this one broker, and she's like, don't use another broker. Samantha's uses another broker, and she's having sex with them in each of the new apartments. So they're doing that, but the apartment is pretty chill. It looked like
It looks
kind of
real.
a common,
it's pretty
normal
small.
apartment now.
Yeah.
She's having sex, takes the shirt off, shirtless scene, and then the other broker walks in and is like, "You cheating on me with another broker?"
Yeah. Oh
So-
my God.
Great
But yeah,
scene.
it was good. And then they kind of just she leaves, and then they get back to business,
they get
right?
back to doing it. That's why you always got to put the chain on the door, even when you're looking, so no one can walk in on you. But yeah, that was
Are we
that-
gonna see her apartment later, and that's where she lives? Does she get that apartment?
No, that's yet another one of those storylines that just like didn't go anywhere. I mean, there is a storyline later about her living on the Upper East Side and then moving apartments. But yeah, this is just, season 1, you see so much of this. It's like a 1-episode storyline for the sake of a storyline. You're like,
it just dies.
yeah.
When we talked to you before we started recording, you seem like a big fan of like seasons 4 and 5
4, 5, 6, so good.
because we're enjoying it, but you're just like, oh, just wait.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean, just because also I love the fashion. I mean, my favorite episodes of all time are My Motherboard Myself and A Woman's Right to Shoes, which I believe are both in season 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I mean, like they'll make you weep, you'll relate. Like it's so, and that's when they're exploring topics of abortion and infertility and within the friend group, navigating that and not trying to hurt your friends' feelings and death of parents and processing that as a single person and just like pretty hard hitting topics. So, seasons 1, 2, they're fine, but I feel like it's kind of loosey goosey, just like, oh, dating. And like, as the characters grow and evolve, they explore more mature storylines that I think are more emotionally
More mature than
charged.
blowjobs?
Then the
I mean,
blowjob
they'll always be beach. They'll always be beach. Don't worry.
Well, what we usually do is we go around and we prescribe a rating to the episode.
Okay.
It's in Cosmos. It's either 1 to 5 Cosmos. And I would love to hear what your thoughts were on this episode.
I would
And
say
you can do half Cosmos.
You
too.
can do half
can I?
Cosmos.
Okay,
You can do half
good.
Cosmos, yeah.
I don't mean to be really harsh with the judging, but I would say 3.5 Cosmos.
3.5 Cosmos. That's
Is that
great.
pretty
No,
good?
That's good.
That's pretty good. Can
Oh,
you tell
really?
us? Can you tell us why you gave it that rating?
I mean, I hate the when they do the talking head thing of cutting to like breaking the fourth wall, and especially when Carrie did that, like she's on the phone with Big and then turns to the camera and is like, oh, "Did I sound annoying?" Like,
Yeah.
oh, I hate that. But I did think that they sort of wove together the different definitions of monogamy really nicely, and it was fun to see Justin Theroux, and I think he's great at playing kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
So 3.5 Cosmos for
3.5
me.
Cosmos.
That's good.
Corey?
I think I'm gonna go 3. This happens every time we do this, and I think it's just because we have great conversations. But I get out of there and I'm like, oh, it was a fine episode. Then we talk about it, and I'm like, I think there was a lot in this one. And what we said at the beginning of this one is I think that it hit each of the ladies in a storyline.
Yeah.
And it gave them, it was able to touch on those topics, give them each a storyline. And it felt like there was a little bit of meat on that storyline.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of stuff that we'll go through for the rest of the show. Like, I think this felt like a thing for Carrie and Big that'll come back. I don't know what'll happen with Skipper and Miranda, but it at least kept with some continuity and characters that we'd seen before. And it gave some character depth to Charlotte, where like maybe she stayed in her prudishness, but she kind of stood up for herself and found a little strength. And the Samantha thing, I don't know if it added to her character at all, but it was just kind of fun and showed her off. So I think a solid 3. Didn't feel like it was like super groundbreaking, but it was like a good, enjoyable episode. And there was a lot of cool New York landmarks. Like
Yeah.
you were saying, all the Union Square stuff, Blue Water Grill and
Blue
all
Water
that. I
Grill,
was like,
and then
oh,
seeing Coffee Bar.
yeah, seeing
or
coffee shop bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that stuff was cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed this episode. There was maybe the Carrie and Big stuff. I was happy during it, but I feel like maybe it didn't add anything new. I feel like some of the exclusivity thing, I don't remember our last episode exactly, but I know we had that communication conversation about like defining whatever you're in. So I don't know. That didn't seem necessarily new. I love Skipper. I love having Skipper there. That was really fun, and I loved his like little comeuppance. And I think I'm gonna go 3 Cosmos as well. I liked the conversation more than the episode this time. But
You're welcome. JK's.
Selena Coppock, everybody.
I'm gonna go with. I'm also gonna go with 3 Cosmos. It was a solid episode. I love when all the ladies are together doing their chats.
I just love this whole thing. I love so much that you guys are like taking this seriously. I'm going to go with 3 Cosmos also. Sorry, continue.
I mean, there's things that there's things that I want to see. I want to see Big and Skipper go on a road trip together up at the Catskills. I think that'd be amazing.
I want to see Charlotte lick someone's
I wanna
balls.
see-
Yeah, come on.
I want to see that dog get a spinoff.
Yeah. But
Air
but
Bud.
for now, we're getting the ladies around a table dishing and doing goofs.
Mm-hmm.
That earns 3 Cosmos every time.
Nice.
I get that.
Yeah, the 4-person dialogue over food is
so good.
always so solid.
That's one of my favorite things. There's always the table scene.
You just got
Yes.
so excited.
I did. I wrote down on my notes. I was like,
your
table
body,
scene.
like when 4
And in-
ladies are there, you perked up. Oh my gosh.
I love
and
a
in
good
future
table scene.
seasons, they built a set that was a cafe just because those scenes take so long to film and there's continuity issues. So they built a set that was like this sort of anonymous coffee shop that doesn't actually exist. But there's so much good dialogue. Like there's one, and you'll say, but like they're talking about like giving head and swallowing. And Carrie's like, could I cancel my rice pudding order? Like, just like, so funny.
That's great.
Before we leave, can you pointed out a major continuity thing
Yes.
for us
Oh.
that
Yes.
I don't think we'll ever be able to unsee. Will you leave us with that?
Yes, I'd love to. This is how we started the Sex and the City tour. If you watch the opening credits, which I love, and I think it's such a jazzy little number, Carrie, there's close-up shots of Carrie, shots of iconic New York scenes, and then there's the shot of the bus splashing her. And when the bus goes by her, you can see a ton of people are in it. Then there's a quick cutaway, and then it shows her again, and the bus is going behind her, and it's completely empty.
Boom.
So keep your eyes open for that, because it's gonna be so glaring
Yeah,
obvious
yeah.
every time now.
One theory is that Sex and the City was the prequel to The Leftovers, and all those people were taken up. Justin Theroux, that's what it is. All those people were taken up.
That's amazing. Well, where can we find you on social media?
I'm Selena Coppock, Selena Coppock, and that's my website. That's my Twitter, Instagram, and I also have a Twitter and Instagram called NYT Vows, where I pretend to be the New York Times wedding section.
Awesome.
That's
Great.
great.
Yeah, it's really fun. I make fun of weddings and wasps and rich people.
Well, we should try and go on the Sex and the City tour at some point.
You should.
And-
I could hook that up. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm still friends with the owner and everything.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out. Maybe we can figure out a way to like do a Sex and the City tour,
Yeah.
or something.
Oh
We could do a
yeah.
live podcast.
I know
from the
exactly. Yeah, maybe like at each stop you could record a little of your
That'd be fun.
feelings about things.
great.
tour. I would love that.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I plan on getting a lot of blowjobs in the future, and watching more Sex and the City.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Selena.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you so
It was so
much.
fun.
Thanks so much.
The Bradshaw Boys stars Cory Cavin, Jon Sieber, and Kevin James Doyle. The show is produced by Jeremy L. Balon. For more information on the guys, check out their website at bradshawboys.com, on social media at The Bradshaw Boys, and if you see them in the street, tip your glass. Thanks for listening.